Hey, what's going on? Welcome to 15 Minutes with Dad, your go-to destination for all things fatherhood. I'm your host, Lirec Williams, here to guide you through our incredible lineup. I want you to know that this is a platform for the family, and let me tell you why. We have a father-daughter podcast, we have a heartfelt healing series, an engaging fatherhood speaks panel, and our newest edition, Dad's Lighthouse, where we shine a light on mental health, family development, and mindset empowerment, and that part is premiering on May 3rd, my birthday. If you are on a quest to transform your fatherhood journey, dive into my new book, Man Up From Our Trauma to Being Impactful Fathers. It's packed with insights and stories to inspire and empower you. But that's not all. Make sure you join our vibrant Discord community and connect with fellow dads on a deeper level. Make sure you join our newsletter at 15minuteswithdad.com. You will be able to find our book on amazon.com as well as at 15minuteswithdad.com/man up. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube to watch our video podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at 15 Minutes with Dad. I hope you're ready to dive into today's episode. Again, thank you for joining me. Welcome to 15 Minutes with Dad.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Lirec, the creator of 15 Minutes with Dad. And today we are here with a special guest, and they're going to take us through the journey of their life, connect us with their family, and give you insights on things that you can do in your life as being a father. If you have not followed 15 Minutes with Dad, the podcast, healing series, or the Fatherhood Speaks, make sure that you go and subscribe to us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're on all social media platforms, as well as all streaming sites. So make sure you go and tap in, rate our podcast, tune in with us, because when you share it and when you rate it, you let somebody else know that you like it and that they would be able to appreciate it too. Appreciate it too. So thank you for tuning in with us today. We have Mr. Deryck Richardson. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing swell, man. Thank you for taking the time out to join us on this evening. I know that you got to get to a family dinner, so we're gonna get through this episode and pull the insights that you have and really understand your story. So start off by telling us who you are, if you will.
Sure. So Deryck Richardson, I am a serial entrepreneur. A lot of people say, what do? You got your hands on so many things. My major business is Richardson Marketing Group. We're proud to be a 3-time best place to work in Columbus, Ohio, a 2-time Fast 50, recognizing the fastest growing privately held companies in the area also. And that's the ATM machine that allows me to play in other spaces. Also have a life insurance agency here. I'm also in the sunglasses business and accessory business, the coffee business, wrote a book, I speak, I coach, I mentor, etc.
Yeah, man. You are out there doing work, man. I appreciate you taking the time out. That seems like you got a lot of hats to fill. And I'm definitely not going to take too much of your time. But at 15 Minutes with Dad, we believe that fathers and children can spend 15 minutes with their kids or with their fathers to really make an impact in each other's life and really build that relationship. So let's start off by saying, are you a father? I know you're a father, but you can tell the viewers that you're a father.
I am. I have 4 kids, and believe it or not, 3 grandkids. I know I look young, but
you're a grandfather, man. Yeah. So would you say if you're comparing your father, the way you grew up with your father versus how you father, is there a difference or is there some similarities?
Both. My father is an immigrant. He is from the Bahamas, and he came to Ohio State to get his PhD. He's a psychologist and didn't go back home. Met my mom, fell in love, and the rest is history. Culturally, there are some differences. They don't have football in the Bahamas. I was a football player. He's not a basketball guy. I love my American sports. And my dad was very much reading. You're going to be a scholar. You're going to be very smart. You're going to be a doctor. And I'm very much, can I just get out here and play these sports? And so my kids, we're very much athletic focused, and at least we were athletic focused when they were younger. Again, they're grown now. And so our house really revolved around youth sports, which our house did too, except for without my dad's 100% understanding of the sport. Certainly at every single game, certainly supportive, but we just weren't outside throwing the football, right? Get your homework done kind of guy. But the similarities are very similar because as I look back, man, my kids tell stories of how I've lectured them and tried to give them insights just like my father did and really sat them down on the proverbial psychologist chair, just like my dad did. And they said that was some of the worst punishments they got. In my house, my mom would hit you real quick and it's over with, and my dad will sit you down and make you think. In our house, operated the same way with my children. If I'm the disciplinarian, we're going to talk this out, and you're not going to say, I don't know. That's not an answer. A lot of similarities, a lot of differences in how I was raised by my father and how I have fathered my children.
Okay. And so if let's dive into it a little bit. You say that spending that time developing you in that nature. What is the most memorable moments that you have with your dad, positive or negative?
It's so funny because the most positive moments that I had with my dad was time. My dad, though he's a psychologist, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember in Living Color when they make fun of the Caribbeans with 15 different jobs, man. My dad is also an entrepreneur, so he has his private practice, but he also works for the Ohio Bureau of Disability Determination as an adjudicator and spent some time as a professor when we were younger also. So 3 jobs, even though he's an entrepreneur, right, as a private practice doctor. And so my dad had late nights, man. Oftentimes he was home after we were in bed. And so a lot of the positive memories were on Saturday when my mom said, "Are yours now." And so we got to the time, the 15 minutes with dad on Saturdays. We would go to the library and we would get books. We would get DVDs. We would watch. We're watching the DVD that we rented or the VHS that we rented from the library, or reading the book that we rented from the library. He's asleep on the couch because he's tired, right? He's worked 80 hours this week, but he was there in the room. And those are some of the most positive memories. My dad is also a very emotional guy, not in terms of tears or anything like that, but he's a hugger. He doesn't want to leave my house or come in my mom's house without hugging my dad. And I think that really taught me that emotions were okay, specifically in the era in the 90s when we were supposed to be big and bad and tough and not really showing to our emotions. Back then, it was nothing for me to hug my dad, kiss my dad, when oftentimes my friends weren't doing that.
Like you said, during that time frame, it was not always heard of. And it was the same. Well, I didn't have many men in my life, but what I was always told, and I think that the women in my life reverberated what the men was portraying at the time. And that was a thing, to be hard and stuff like that. So that's a beautiful thing to have had, especially in that time, in that era. Yeah, that's definitely beautiful. And what about, are there any memories that you feel could have been opportunities, or you felt like opportunities in growth with your relationship with your dad?
Yeah, because he was an intellect, and I don't know what was wrong with us in the 90s, man, and certainly not everybody, I'm not saying that, but we did not take our grades seriously, specifically in my circle. And again, if the shoe fits, wear it. So I'm not talking about everybody, but it was nothing to come home with D's and F's, man, and just not do your homework and just be out in the streets and hanging with girls and playing sports and just not really caring about your future, not forecasting your future. And so a lot of the negatives when I rebelled and became a teenage father and really was doing some things I shouldn't have done in my teenage years was probably because anytime my dad was involved, he was disciplining me. Remember, my dad is a scholar. He's a PhD. He's a doctor. And so to see his son, his first son, by the way, there's 4 of us, but I'm the first boy, bring home these D's and F's. I graduated high school with a 1.9. It was disappointing to him. And so that disappointment, they did let me out. And I would go on to graduate. I would go on. One of my famous stories I tell the youngsters these days, I would go on to graduate from Ohio Dominican with a 3.75. I just gave the keynote at graduation last year at Ohio Dominican University as a keynote speaker.
That potential, you didn't realize it early.
I didn't realize it early. But some of those feelings were like, man, if my dad's around, it's because I'm in trouble. And he's going to sit me down and make me confront and talk about this. And I really didn't like it. So I used those opportunities to rebel. And again, we have late nights, man. I thought everybody's dad came home at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. They didn't. Yeah. Right. And so I had that time, even though my mom was in the house, to overpower her a little bit, right? To do what I wanted to do. And then when he came home, it was like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this because this ain't going to happen. And so we had this confrontation, my fault, 100% my fault. But the negatives were certainly those high school years when I was getting disciplined, and that's really all the communication that we had, or at least the stuff that's memorable. And that's why it goes back to that 15 minutes with dad, right? The good times were when he was there and when I was a little bit younger, and it wasn't all, hey, you're doing this wrong, you need to do this. But he certainly was a disciplinarian verbally. And I think that I'm such of an alpha that got on my nerves. People tell me what to do, even though he's my dad.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is because there's a couple of dynamics that are playing in here. There's the cultural dynamic coming from the Bahamas. That's a very close knit to the African diaspora, right? So you have a lot of the cultural aspects of growth and development. I'm an immigrant. I came to this country and I worked really hard. I put, like you said, put all these hours in, and a lot of that cultural part. You growing up in a country that culturally is the opposite, and trying to navigate your childhood with a father that kind of came here. Probably was he an adult when he got to the United States?
He was a college student, so he was a college student, came to Ohio State to get his PhD, so
you're coming with someone that was formed in another country with a different cultural background, trying to coach you in a realm that he is unfamiliar with almost. That's interesting. And not to say he didn't adapt, but it was more like the age group, like the generation that was coming from behind where he was, is almost foreign at that time.
Sure, absolutely.
But I say that we talked, Black Girl Dad Week was happening last weekend, and there was a talk. Roland Martin came and had a talk with Congresswoman Beatty. And Roland Martin was talking about these two concepts. He said there was the fathers that are present and the fathers that have a presence. And so I throw that out there, and I want you to take those two terms and I want you to classify or cascade it onto your dad in any of those terms, and then cascade yourself and your fatherhood with your kids currently.
Sure. So being present is just that. You're around. This isn't a single family household. Yeah. Certainly many men struggle with that because they think they're doing something because they're present. Of course, we're now in an era where drugs and alcohol, and of course in our era too, could play a factor that you're there, but you're high or you're intoxicated. Of course, many men have been known to beat their children and beat their wives, so they're present, right?
Yeah.
But to have a presence means to create an influence, to shape and mold a life in a positive manner. And my dad did a very good job of that. And as much as I say that he wasn't there because he was working, I mean, he was working, you got to provide. And it's in his blood to do. And it's funny how I've grown up and now I got my hands on so many different things, and I'm not going to be home. I got a family dinner tonight. I'm not going to be home till 7:30 probably. Right. So it's funny how it comes full circle. It's just in our blood to go work and hustle. But the presence, to make sure that you're making an impact, to make sure that they are learning from you, that you are rubbing off on your children in a positive manner is important for sure.
Yeah. And how do you apply that in your household? So knowing that you work a lot, how do you apply having a presence? What are some things that you do to have presence in your home, even though you're not always exactly present early in the daytime or something like that, like physically present, but it's still being able to try and have presence inside of your kids' life growing up? And I know they're adults now, they're out the house and whatnot, but growing up and now as well, how do you show presence?
Sure. So we were able to really bond through sports, which is why that's such of a big topic when you talk about the difference in how I grew up. I know that my father likely wished that we could bond through academia, but we didn't. But I bonded with my children, all four of them, through sports. I coached all of them. Right. And even as they got older and became high school students, I run a nonprofit in Hilliard, the Hilliard Optimist Club. I'm the president of the club. We handle football, lacrosse, basketball, cheerleading, volleyball, essay, and oratorical contests. It's a nonprofit. It's a volunteer position, but I have put my kids in coaching positions, even as adults there. So now they're coaching and getting to experience the joy of coaching as well. And we get to talk about that, right? We really bond over sports. Right. We have 3 boys and 1 girl. The Olympics, man, the gymnastics, the days of Gabby with my daughter was fantastic. She's a hooper. She's a super hooper. The NBA playoffs, All-Star weekend just passed. Those are times in our house that we really bond. I really bond with my children. Through sports, there's so many lessons to be had. And when they're on the field, you get to talk about what you learned today. And when they're off the field, as adults, you get to talk about what did they learn when you're watching a sports program. And I'm really able to give lessons and really shape through sports. Man, we were a sports household and still are a sports household. We have a group chat, and you should have seen the chats that were happening over All-Star Saturday night with the dunk contest and even leading up to the dunk contest on Friday. And the Super Bowl, same thing. Oftentimes the kids are at our house watching Ohio State Buckeyes football, right? We're a red zone house.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, you got red zone?
Yeah, so we're a red zone house. So Sundays, I got something on the grill, and we watching red zone and watching teams over here and over there, and that's just how we do, man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So, and I want to talk to that contrast because I like how you laid out the fact. Okay, my dad, although he had a presence, he also didn't bond with me in the way that you needed him to bond, and this kind of caused some kind of tension. It didn't have. I think that point of contact with your sports would have made maybe a difference in how y'all communicated together, and that's my assertion or my assumption, not assertion, and. The point that I want to make is how tight-knit that you've formed your bond with your kids. I'm sure you've gone through a rebellious stage. I'm going through one right now with my teenage child. Not rebellious, but she has her own abstract thoughts, so I allow her to do that. And sometimes it clash. But I want to point out the fact that there are most fathers that find it hard to really connect with their children. And something that I found that you have also found that you may have connected to your childhood is that connecting with your kids in a place where they are, with an interest that they have, and really pouring into that interest. I've coached my daughter as well. I still coach her even while she has other coaches, but I'm a sideline coach when I'm the
man. Yeah.
I want to make a point to your story on how I think that is a very effective way to connect for a father to connect with their child in those places where they feel that I just don't get my kid, or my kid they do their own thing. I don't have time to do that, or I don't want to figure this out, or I don't know what they do. They do something. I think that is the point at which that is like the door into your child's heart is by sharing the love of something, even if you don't know anything about it. So I'm going to be honest with you. I sucked at basketball as a kid. I was terrible. I was trash, garbage, uncoordinated. I'm probably a little bit still uncoordinated, but I'm madly in love with basketball now. I was a football player, wrestler, track runner, all that stuff. Basketball, I was like, I just did recreational. My daughter is really good, and I've coached her, and I've only gotten better because I coached her. I learned basketball through coaching her. So because she wanted to play better, I had to learn how to coach her better, which taught me how to play basketball, which now that's something that we both share. We love women's basketball. We seen Caitlin Clark when she came into town and got stomped by the Ohio Buckeyes. But I say that as it's vital almost for dads to connect with their kids in the place where they are most familiar with or something that they like the most. And I think that you did a great job. And I think that you've understood where there was a gap, even though, you have a good relationship with your dad. You understood that was a moment or a gap in there that could have made your relationship go different had he connected with you in the realm of sports, rather than instead of it feeling like you're having to separate from the house to get sports, you were able to do the sport. It was a household thing, like you've made it in your home. And I think that's a phenomenal approach.
Where you are is important. I don't know how religious you want me to be. I'm going to speak from my mind. Of the 10 coins comes to mind. There was a lady who had 10 coins. Silver coins, I'll paraphrase. And she lost one. And she went crazy. And some people say, we got 9. What's the other one for? But she forgets about the 9 and she looks for the lost coin. And you know where she found the lost coin? Right where it was. Sure. And so when you lose relationships, you sometimes have to find those people where they are. I'm so glad that you said that.
Right.
It's not just sports. It was the whole cultural difference. Sports certainly was a major aspect, but he could have found me where I was in cinema, in music, in literature, because it was totally different. And I'm not saying he wasn't looking I'm not saying that at all, because my dad and I have a fantastic relationship now, and I rely on him for a lot of advice as a man and as a father. Now he's one of the most qualified people as a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, to give men who, as entrepreneurs, we don't have people who we can talk to a lot of the time. So my dad's one of the most qualified people on the face of the planet to give me advice, and I use that now. And he has given his services to many of my friends and business partners, his professional services now. But back then, I was right there. But the difference, in my opinion, is also the timing. Remember, so also, even though I'm young, I look young, my father's pushing 80. Back then, children should be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
We weren't taking into consideration the feelings and emotions of children back then. You do this, and you do it because I told you to do it.
Yep. Don't question, don't ask,
Don't question it, don't ask, because I said so, right? And so these are the things that really played a part in me just saying, it's not because you said so, I'm out of here, right? You don't watch the same shows I watch. You're telling me not to listen to this rap music, right? I'm over here reading John Grisham. You're telling me to read the encyclopedia. I don't know. I'm exaggerating, but my father is a
Sigmund Freud. You want to like...
You see what I'm saying? And I love sports. And again, he's at every game, bro. Every game.
Yes.
Never. My dad never missed a game. I would not see my dad. I would see him in the stands and not see him at home because he went back to work. He was present for sure. Yeah. But when you say find your children where they are, the parable of the 10 silver coins says she found the 10th coin right where it was. She found it where it was.
Yep.
And so I try to find my children where they are. And it's funny because rebellion, it's funny, and also Luke 4:24, and I'll get off the religion, but says no man can be a prophet in his own land.
Yeah.
So I'm this big time businessman, big time guy in my community, playing politics, do all this stuff. My kids don't think I'm a prophet. They ain't listening to me. And we've seen some of the same hurdles that I have overcome pretty good. Teenage father happened to my second oldest son.
Yeah.
Baby mama drama happened to my second oldest son. Not knowing what I want to do, not knowing what I want to do professionally happened to, I would say, 2 of the 4 children. And I'm here. I'm trying to find you where you are because I've been there and successfully exited that stage of my life. And they don't want to hear it, bro. And so I try to find my children right where they are, and I try to use those conversations. That's why they say I lecture, right? Come on, man, I don't want to hear about how I handled that situation with my baby's mom. I don't want to hear about how I just left this job because I wasn't happy. I don't want to hear about, because I'm trying to find them where they are. And sometimes that's not the right answer either, bro, is my point. So even though my father didn't find me where I was, I've tried to find my children where they are. And sometimes that's the wrong answer also.
I'm learning that too. Let's talk a little bit about, and I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I do want to get into the part. You say that you were a teenage father, and I was also a teenage father, so I definitely have gone through the journeys of being, and for myself, it was a little bit different. I didn't have my dad in my life, but I was a teenage father, didn't know how to be a man, didn't really have a model of a man to be like, but I had to really carve out what that looks like over time and try to be a father and grow, create dreams, visions, goals, and accomplish things. But knowing, tell me a little bit about that concept. What was your earliest age that you had your first child?
So I was 19 when I had my first child. The mixture, and my parents never really said this, because I don't know if you did or not, but I hesitated in telling them that I was about to have a baby. The fear of backlash was real. And when I finally told them, cool, let's go. What are we going to do? And the mixture of, they never said it, but the disappointment, the thought that I assume they probably have had of he's throwing away his life, was a burning, still burns to this day, piece of motivation for me to succeed in this world.
Yeah.
The baby itself that fit in my forearm certainly was motivating.
Oh yeah.
Certainly was motivated. The
That
feed
moment,
and
that first
shape and,
time
and,
you
and
touch them.
mold, correct. This is motivating,
Yeah.
but also the fact, and they never said it, but also the fact that I believe that my parents and the world think that I'm probably a statistic, a minority teenage father. Now it's time to put on my
Mm,
cape and prove them wrong. Is
yeah.
when I matured. That is when I matured, is when I became a father, period.
Yeah. I say the same thing. It was like a switch when I was in the
Yep.
hospital and I'm holding my daughter and she rips her little finger around my hand and I'm crying because honestly, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I have no
Yep.
idea what I'm about to do I didn't even have a place to stay of my own. I'm living with my grandmother at the time and had nothing. Like I didn't have sheets on my bed kind of thing. It was definitely a scary moment, but I told myself at that point, I'm going to change your life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create a world where you don't have to live the way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken time, but it only, if I calculate the years, it only took really 7 years. I finished college by the time she was 4. I wasn't even in college when she was pregnant, but I went back to college, finished college by the time she turned 4, and
Same.
then got my first career job and just started like really just trying to climb this little corporate ladder. And I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I know that I'm way better than I was at that time. 10 times better than I was at that time.
Hey, what's going on to all my dads out there? A quick pause on our fantastic journey today to share something special with you. If you've been enjoying the insight stories and dad wisdom we dive into every episode, then you're going to love this. I've poured my heart, soul, and a whole lot of dad experience into my book, Man Up, From Our Trauma to Being Impactful Fathers. It's not just a book. It's a self-help guide. It's a companion for every dad out there looking to strengthen their bond with their kids, navigate the challenges of trauma, fatherhood, and discover new ways to find joy in the most ordinary moments. Inside, you will find stories, anecdotes about my life, practical advice, and those light bulb moments that you'll have to say, aha, so I'm not the only one. Whether you're a new dad, feeling a bit overwhelmed, or seasoned pro looking for fresh perspectives, Man Up, From Our Trauma to Being Impactful Fathers is your go-to guide for all things fatherhood. And because you are a valued listener of 15 Minutes with Dad, I've got a special offer just for you. Head over to 15minuteswithdad.com/manup and use the promo code DAD15 at checkout for an exclusive listener discount. But wait, it gets even better. When you grab your copy today, you'll also get access to a special bonus chapter that's not available anywhere else. It's my way of saying thank you for being a part of our Dadtastic community. All right, let's dive back into our episode.
Same, bro. Same. It's funny because I was that switch that you talk about. I was headed down the wrong path, bro. The wrong path. And when that switch came on, and I said, "Okay, we got to go." That's the feeling that men run from sometimes, and women.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that people run from. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel this pressure to make sure that this little being survives, and not only survives, but has a life that is valuable. And that is why they say I'm not the father. That's why they're on Maury. That's why they're on Steve Wilkos, bro. Because they're scared of that feeling. That's the feeling that will turn boys into men. It's also that feeling in the hospital you had is the same feeling that will drop the toughest men to their knees too, and they'll start crying.
Yeah.
And it's
I
time to
put
be
that,
aware.
I talked about that moment. I talked about that moment in my book. And when I was found out, I broke my book into different sections of being a teenage father, a growing father, and the broke father. I break it up to different stages of my life and how I navigated through fatherhood, through my trauma and trying to become an impactful father. But it was like that moment when I found out she was pregnant, I immediately got so scared that I was like, I don't want to be here. I wasn't even near her. She texted me. I was at Walmart and I immediately said, I just want to disappear. I have no idea what this means. I was just like, I want to disappear. Can I run away? Where can I go? Will she find me? I was thinking of abortion. I was thinking of every single solitary. I was like, this can't be real. I gotta make this go away. and not out of fear of anybody, because my mom wasn't really that active in my life like that, and my grandmother also wasn't that active. I was really out on my own, and so that, but it was like I wanted to do something big with my life, and I was like, I can't do nothing big with my life. But then I realized this kind of helped me do something bigger in my life than I ever would have thought I could be. But yeah, that fear definitely crippled me for maybe 25 minutes of texting back and forth with the mother of my daughter. I was like, I hit her with the usher talk. I was like, put that on everything. Are you sure? You still put, you tell how many tests you take. She said she took 5. But I say that to say, during the pregnancy, I was there, but I didn't have a presence. Like I was there doing the motions, but emotionally and psychologically, I was like, it still wasn't real to me. But when she was born, first off, when she came out, I almost vomited, and I almost fainted and vomited at the same time. But then when I held her, it switched. That switch was so powerful. I was like, yo, I'm gonna do everything in my absolute power. I would never stop it. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what those steps were gonna be. I had no path. I had no guidance. I had no mentors. I had no vision of what was gonna take place. But I knew for a fact that for her, I will see a difference. I will make something happen. And yeah, man, it's been up ever since. It's a powerful thing.
It's very powerful, man. It's very powerful. And my mom, man, my mom said something that was powerful a couple years ago. And that was that we have made her a double empty nester because my mom is the one that nurtures the entire neighborhood. So we were the house where all the bikes were out in the front yard. We were the house where the kids just walked in before they said hello. They're in the fridge. Just little neighborhood kids, right? Yeah. My mom was that was always her piece of comfort, was to be the matriarch of not only our family, but of the neighborhood and all of our friends. And when she said that, I didn't understand it. I said, a double empty nester? She said, yeah. She said, all these kids were in the house. Then y'all grow up and leave. And y'all want to have kids all young. And so guess who's babysitting them? I am. So now all the grandkids are in the house. And now the grandkids, the core, the original grandkids have started to have their own families, and they're not in the house anymore. Yeah. And she said the house is silent. And I'll never forget, my youngest is 18. He just graduated last year. And we sent him to Arizona to my brother-in-law's. And so we were empty nesters for about 6 months. It took about 6 months to come back. And the house was silent. The house was silent, bro. Yeah. And I called my mom. I said, now I know what you mean. Now I know what you mean by being a double empty nester. But my mom also was a sense of inspiration, because there's no way I can grow up in a house with a matriarch as powerful as my mother and then let down beings that I created.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
That's a different type of disappointment. I think that it was like almost like I already made this decision. It is what it is at this point. Now I have to show up. I have to show up and I have to show out. And I think I applaud you. I applaud you on putting that work in and staying present and having a presence in your kids' lives and continuing to build that family circle that you've continued from your family. And it's a beautiful thing. And like I said, I'm going to let you get back to dinner. I have one last thing. Can you tell what is something that you would have in your heart to tell fathers before we go, to tell fathers that you feel would be not only a nugget of knowledge, but something that can take and implement into their lives right now? Estranged fathers, new dads, or fathers that are fathers to young kids, fathers of teenagers, you've been through the spectrum. So yeah, what do you have?
Man, I got a lot of stuff to talk about, so I know I got dinner waiting at home, but I'm going to go for a couple minutes here, because I'm going to tell you a story, then I'm going to answer your question. A couple years ago, it was more than a couple years ago, I've been in this office now for pushing 9 years. And so we switched from 1099 to W-2 probably 7 years ago. And when we switched from 1099 to W-2, with that comes child support for those who are put on child support. And I'm a very calm, cool, and collected leader. If I blow a gasket, per se, it's once a year. I'm my father, right? So let's talk about this. Right. Let's have a seat. What's going on? And these men who worked for me were complaining, Lirec,
About paying child support.
about paying child support. And the one guy said, man, my baby's mom has a brand new car. Bro, your children ride in that car.
Yeah.
Your children ride in that car. She ain't gonna do nothing but get a bigger house. Your children live in their house.
Facts.
She gonna go get her nails done. She gonna get her nails done anyway, bro. And
Right.
you're sticking her, you're so weak that you are sticking a female, somebody who you laid down with the full responsibility of raising your child and then going to complain about being financially responsible. Are you serious?
Right.
I went off, bro, on everybody. I slammed this door right behind me. And they said, what's wrong with him? And so the problem is that how can you even raise your children to be strong men if you aren't strong men? How does the world have strong leaders if there's not strong men in this world and strong women? If there's not strong people in this world that are leaders and our men can build and mold, then what does the future of this country and this world look like? You have a bigger responsibility than to just say, hello, son or daughter, I love you. You have a responsibility to shape the future of this country and of this world. That responsibility you accept the moment you lay down with somebody. So if you want to lay down with somebody, you're accepting the responsibility that if a being comes from this, it is my responsibility to make sure that this being makes this world better. How can you do that if you're not present? You're not only letting yourself down, your children down, you're the mother of your children down, you're letting the world down if you do not step up and be a good father. You will fail. Your children will hate you at times. They will love you at times, but they'll hate you at times. You will make mistakes. There's no book on how to parent. But if you're going to accept the responsibility of bringing a life into this world and then run from it, that's the worst thing you can do. And I know that there's excuses out there. Oh, but she ain't gonna let me see my kid.
Right.
Go to court. Oh, she got another man around her. So now another man is taking your responsibility? So now you've passed that responsibility on to another man? Oh, but I ain't got no money. Go get some money. I promise you there's money out here to be had. Oh, but this, oh, but that, oh, but this. Stop with the excuses and remember your responsibility to raise these children to leave this planet in a better position than it was when you found it. If that does not motivate you, then don't lay down with anybody.
And just like that, we've hit an end of another epic journey here at 15 Minutes with Dad. I'm your host, Lirec, and I am thrilled to have shared this time with you. But guess what? The conversation is far from over. Want to dive deeper into the Dadverse? Check out our website at 15minuteswithdad.com and join our vibrant community on Instagram, Discord, and TikTok for your daily dose of dad inspiration camaraderie. And here's something special. Subscribe to our newsletter at 15minuteswithdad.com for exclusive goodies and behind-the-scenes peeks you won't find anywhere else. Got a burning question or a dad moment that made you proud? We're all ears. Submit your questions and share those special moments with us for a chance to be featured and shout out on our show. It's your time to shine in our dad community, so tap in with our Discord, and our server is at 15 Minutes with Dad, so tap in for that. Engage with the community, and you will be featured on our show. Each week we will do another feature, so Join in. Love today's episode. Spread the love by sharing it with a friend and leaving us a review. Let's get the word out and grow our awesome dad family, because guess what? When you give us a review and you rate our podcast, you give everybody the chance to enjoy what you've enjoyed about this podcast as well. So mark your calendars, because new episodes drop every Thursday of the week. Ready for more heartwarming stories, laughs, and dad wisdom? We can't wait to have you back. But until next time, keep being the amazing dad you are. Every day is a new adventure and every moment is special. Catch you on the next episode. Love, peace, and chicken grease.